What is the best legal supplement for muscle growth? So a lot of people ask like, hey, I want to really build muscle, but I don't want to take these illegal substances that are banned. I don't know the side effects, the risk profiles are high, and I get where you're coming from. And so what I'm going to show you in this video is I'm going to give you two legal or approved. I'll show you some of the FDA approvals for these two substances. I'm not going to tell you right now, but it will blow your mind because so many people have put stigmas around these things. And actually what the research shows is if done appropriately and prescribed by a physician who actually understands these molecules, it can be a supercharger for your muscle building, for your longevity, and for your bone mineral density. So let's jump in and talk about the best legal supplements that you can take. Okay, so let's just peel off the onion layer. Let's go deep into this. So Nandrolone, also known as DECA, but Nandrolone decionate is a phenomenal therapy. It's a hormonal therapy that a lot of bodybuilders have used. And a lot of people say, well, Regan, that's gear, it's not legal. Well, actually, let me share with you, it is legal if prescribed appropriately. And so some of the FDA approvals for Nandrolone may surprise you. So don't turn this off and say, oh, Regan's trying to put me on gear and he wants me to be a musclehead or whatever. I actually want you to build muscle because I think your muscle is probably the most important organ in your body. I do know it's the largest organ. It takes up about 40% of your overall body mass is muscle. And so how can you protect that as you age? Well, Nandrolone, or DECA, it was something that was popularized about 3 decades ago. And people started to notice how well they recovered. They noticed by using Nandrolone, their joints didn't ache as much. They noticed they could hold on to muscle mass better. And then it became stigmatized, and it was used in the bodybuilding world, and it was to gain the competitive advantage because when you're lifting weight as frequently as bodybuilders do, and especially the guys who are getting really jacked, there can be side effects. But if you use Nandrolone appropriately in a much lower dose, and don't fudge on this, fellas or ladies, just do it as your doctor prescribes, what you'll find is that Nandrolone can actually be very safe and very well tolerated. So here's what it is. So Nandrolone is known as an anabolic androgenic steroid, similar to testosterone, but it's not nearly as androgenic. Now, when I say androgenic, that means it's activating the muscle building side of the hormones. It promotes increased nitrogen retention. Guess what else increases nitrogen retention? Oh yeah, creatine. Creatine is actually, it's a nitrogen acid. And so it helps with protein synthesis. So you break down proteins better and allow them to become muscle. And it also helps with muscle mass aggregation. So you're going to get healthier muscles, you're going to be able to use the protein more effectively in your body, and it also helps you gain some mass. So some of the things that it is approved for may surprise you. One of the biggest things is if you have osteoporosis or if you have a loss of bone mineral density. And if you don't know if you have it, well, go get a DEXA scan. And if you're over 60, Nandrolone may be very effective for you, especially if you're a woman or a man, because the studies are very compelling about what it does as far as holding on to bone mineral density. And even if you've been lifting weights and you've done all the other natural things, Nandrolone may be a good treatment for you. The other thing it's been approved for is anemia. It does seem to help pull more red blood cells from your bone marrow. And it also is good for muscle wasting disorders. It allows your body, that nitrogen retention is so important for muscle that it helps these people avoid that muscle wasting syndrome, and also can help with sarcopenia, which is where our blood vessels get brittle and our muscle mass starts getting replaced by fat. So several human studies have found that by using Nandrolone in human trials, when you combine it with resistance training, you're going to have a far greater outcome than the control groups who did not use Nandrolone. So if you're somebody who is experiencing the effects of aging, I say aging is a gravity-fed sport, and you're concerned and you say, man, what is the fastest way I can accelerate muscle building? Well, Nandrolone, at least in the studies, what they found is that when you have great resistance training, and I recommend doing like the super slow, look up Doug McGuff and you'll find the super slow training method. Body by Science is the name of one of his books. And he found that by slowing down your movements, you can build an enormous amount of muscle. And by using Nandrolone, you can actually help increase the growth of your muscles. So another randomized control, what they examined is the effects of nandrolone and resistance exercise on body composition and muscle function in patients who are undergoing hemodialysis. And what the study concluded is that nandrolone, particularly when combined with this resistance training, significantly improved lean muscle mass and muscle strength compared to the control group. And that's impressive because nandrolone, it does increase the muscle growth by activating this anabolic activity within the muscle tissue. And when you have more nitrogen retention, you're going to have more hydration in the muscle, so you're going to recover faster. One of the things that they also noticed as a byproduct is they found that people had better collagen synthesis. Now, if you think about what collagen is, I'm sure you've heard me talk about collagen. If you've watched this channel, I have whole videos on it. If you just go back into the YouTube, you can find that. But the other thing that they found is that when you have better collagen synthesis, you have better joint integrity. And glycine is that molecule. You want to supplement with glycine. Try that first. Nandrolone is a little bit higher on the risk profile if you don't do it right. But what they found is that a lot of patients who had this muscle wasting disorder, when they used nandrolone, they said, my joints don't hurt anymore. And so it gave them the ability to go into the gym and lift weights without feeling that pain from arthritis in the joints or the pain from having poorly structured collagen. And so it's interesting because they also found that with nandrolone, it's got a longer half-life. So you've got this more steady anabolic environment, which means if you're on testosterone replacement, you're going to hold on to muscle longer. And then by using the nandrolone, you're going to extend it out farther, and you're going to notice just a massive benefit in your body composition. And so it promotes lean muscle gain. It also helps decrease pain, which is, I don't know about you, but I don't like pain. We have a no pain policy at East West. And so it's really important. So that's nandrolone, and also known as DECA. And yes, it is legal. It's a legal way that you can build muscle. And it's probably one of the most robust. And I bet there's going to be some controversy around this. Try it for yourself. We've seen it in just a few of the clients that have qualified to be put on nandrolone. We've seen a very positive outcome where, we have one client who's a former Major League Baseball player, and he notices that his shoulders feel better, his back feels better. He just says, man, I feel a little bit happier on this. And we have him on a very small dose, but we also wanted to protect his bone mineral density, which was starting to degrade. I mean, he's pushed his body for 6 decades, so we want to protect that. We have another client of ours who just couldn't build muscle. He had the muscle wasting disorder, and he was stuck at about 145 pounds. And he said, Regan, I feel like I'm just like a skinny old man and I can't build muscle, and he's very athletic. And so by using nandrolone, he's with his testosterone therapy and this next treatment that we'll talk about for muscle growth that's legal, now he's found that not only has he put on muscle, he's lost more visceral fat. He was able to lose 5 pounds of visceral fat and put on about 7 pounds of lean tissue. And that was in 90 days, so unheard of. Okay, so the next one that is legal is called tesamorelin. Now, tesamorelin is a growth hormone releasing peptide. It's 43 amino acid chains, and it's one of the strongest in the growth hormone category. It's something that you don't want to stay on long term. Just like nandrolone, you want to do cycles of it. What tesamorelin does is it helps your body produce its own growth hormone. It increases IGF-1 levels, and IGF-1, or insulin-like growth factor, is a way that you can maintain great blood sugar stability, but it also helps with protein synthesis. So you break down proteins better, which allows you to put on more muscle. We call tesamorelin the six-pack peptide because it helps you get more definition. And actually, one of the things it was studied for was these patients who had HIV, and these patients were on these drugs that were causing them to gain a lot of visceral fat. So they had these massive bellies. They were getting fatty liver disease. A lot of these patients had fibrotic livers, so that's where the liver got all crusty and lost its flexibility. But by using tesamorelin, what they found is that these patients were able to decrease their visceral fat, so they got rid of that belly. And remember, dudes, for body composition, it's all about proportions. And so the ratios in our body, the ratio of our waist to our chest is really important. If you have a waist, and if you look at the circumference of your waist And if it exceeds it, if you times it by 2, it should not exceed your body height. Otherwise, if it does start to exceed your body height, so if you have a 32-inch waist and you're 60 inches tall, then you're 64 inches when you look at the circumference times 2. And that puts you at a greater risk of a cardiovascular event. So it's really important to keep the waist small, make sure you have the muscle building, and that's where tesamorelin comes in. So in this study, what they found is that significantly induced the visceral adipose tissue, and the visceral meaning organs, so it's the fat around your organ. It improved IGF-1 levels, and this was published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism. I'll provide a link in the notes below. But what they also found is that there was a lowering of triglycerides, there was an improvement in liver function, and even in one case, they found that patients who had up to 90% fibrotic livers, tesamorelin was able to reverse the fibrotic liver. So if you have any concerns of your liver, tesamorelin is a game changer. Here's another study where they found that tesamorelin improved body composition without excess fat gain. Because one of the problems is when you go into a bulking stage where you're trying to change your body composition, you eat too much and then you end up putting on fat and muscle. And so they found that what tesamorelin does is it enhances lean muscle while reducing visceral fat. So it's one of the best combinations that you can have. And yes, once again, it is legal. And you may be saying, well, I don't have HIV and I'm not on the drugs that were causing these side effects, or I don't even have osteoporosis or osteopenia, but I do want to build muscle and I want to do it legally. Well, there's this thing called off-label use. And so by meeting with your physician, you can ask if this is appropriate for you for off-label use. And so what they found in the studies, a 26-week randomized placebo-controlled trial, found that tesamorelin, it reduced visceral fat, it preserved muscle mass, and in these HIV patients, it indicated a robust anabolic potential. Anabolic meaning muscle building and a building potential without negative shifts in fat distribution. So we provided a link to the studies below, but generally speaking, here's how you'd use tesamorelin. We like you to use it 5 days on, 2 days off. Once again, we're gonna run your labs first before we do any of these treatments. And the duration is typically anywhere from 30 days to 12 weeks. And then we wanna have cycles where you work on other pathways in the growth hormone. But then with the benefit, you're going to see an increase in your IGF-1 levels, you'll have less visceral fat, you'll recover faster, and it's also good for joints. You'll notice it specifically in the stomach. So if you got the midsection bulge, tesamorelin might be really great for you. With the nandrolone, what you want to do is most people are dosing about 100 to 150 milligrams of this intramuscularly weekly, and yes, it can be intimidating doing the intramuscular injections, but ideally, based on what we find in your labs, we may get you down to like 50 milligrams. Doing a lower dose does have a long half-life, and you do this for about 8 weeks. This could be really important because what nandrolone will do is it helps promote muscle growth, it helps with the collagen synthesis, so it protects your joints, and it helps with recovery, and it does seem to be a mood enhancement. And that's never a bad thing. And then for training, you want to make sure that you're doing resistance training 4 times a week. Ideally, you're going on the hypertrophy focus, so you're pushing that last rep. You don't need to do you don't need to do like the crazy weights. You just want to do the reps to the place where you get to about 12 reps, and then the last 2 reps really allow your muscles to burn. And what the research shows is if you do 1 set, that's good. You'll get some recovery, but most of it's going to be gone by the next time you get to the gym. So do at least 2 sets of 12 to 15 reps. And then if you do 3 sets, you're going to get even greater gains. And then 4 or 5 sets, you're going to have marginal returns and you're going to put your body at greater risk. So ideally about 3 sets of anywhere from 10 reps to 15 to the place where you burn, where you got to really push that last couple of reps. You want to be eating about 1 gram of protein per day, and then you want to have the right amount of carbohydrates and fats, and our fitness instructor, our fitness advisor will put all of the macros together for you, and then get your labs ran. So we'll run your labs in the beginning, we'll run it after 90 days, and then we'll also look at your body composition and see what kind of changes you've made. So for those of you who say, I love this sounds really exciting, well, you may be wondering, well, what's another supplement I can add in that is legal and it doesn't require a prescription? Well, watch my video on creatine, And you're going to learn exactly how to use creatine, the dosing, and the benefits of it. And I'll see you in the next video.